we declare love of country. We declare nationhood. And I think St. Philip epitomizes pride and the industry. I said to her at 8 years old, you don't know who I am? I am John King.
So my guest today is none other than Senator John King. Johnny McBoy, John King, boy oh boy, Caribbean Song Festival winner. Where do we start, John? I guess we better start at the very beginning. You've been in the political arena. You're still serving the public too as well. So you've had really a multifaceted life, coming from the Eastern Republic of St. Philip. So how did you get into the whole business of entertainment, John?
I think from the time I was a child, my mother and my dad always said that, as a child, you would always be on your toes and look like you're dancing or shaking and doing all this kind of thing. So obviously I was exposed to a lot of music in the household as a child. And I think where it really started was my first encounter seeing Michael Jackson as a youngster singing. Yeah. I mean, that was like, wow. Yes, that was like magic. And I thought, I'm really enthralled with this. I mean, I love to see how the audience reacted. They're enjoying themselves. He seems to be enjoying himself a lot. And so I thought when I had the opportunity, I would grab it with both hands. And for those persons who knew me at school, especially both primary and secondary school. Large school. Yeah. But at primary school, I started with Auntie Olga on Children's Party. Yes. Morning, really, and she would never let me forget, that I was one of the first persons who had such a huge ego. I said to her at 8 years old, you don't know who I am? I am John King. And she would never let me forget it. Confidence,
Where did the name Johnny McBoy come from?
Well, I was watching, at that time, I loved to watch the Waltons. And there was a guy there called John Boy. And I said to myself, but this is not Barbadian. This is not as Barbadian. Yeah, I'm gonna call myself John Boy. Yeah. And there was an old lady up by me who would always call me Johnny McBoy. How you?
Johnny McBoy.
And I said, exactly, right? And her name was Miss Douglas. I'll never forget it. And I said to myself, okay, so when I'm going into it, what is it that is going to be extremely different? Because everybody was like mighty this and the great this and all that stuff. He said, nah, I'm a young person. How do I get something that might be endearing, especially to older people? And I said, this is it. Yeah, I said, this is it. I'm going as Johnny McBoy.
How many more must carry this load? How many more?
Let me take you back. You mentioned parishes, so let me take you back to St. Philip, because there's a curious thing about St. Philip, and we make jokes about the Republic of St. Philip, but when I look at St. Philip, pound for pound, St. Philip has produced so many outstanding entertainers in Barbados, comedian extraordinaire, Mac Fingal and others, several others, yourself. How many times did you win Calypso Monarch?
Twice.
You went to Calypso Monarch twice.
But I got the record for coming second in most.
Well, still don't hear a lot about these silver medals.
It's true.
Olympic Games.
It's true, but I got to blow that trumpet.
But coming second is important. It's interesting. You seldom hear about the runner-up. It's like, although they tell you play fair and be a good sportsman, somehow being the bridesmaid doesn't. But you did win on 2 occasions. But what is it about St. Philip you think that has allowed the art form to develop? You produced Untouchables tent, which for me hands down was still the best Calypso tent in the halcyon days of tents and so on in Barbados. Untouchables, you were guaranteed entertainment. I mean, what is it that worked in that mix that St. Andrew didn't have, or St. Lucy didn't have, or St. Michael, for that matter?
Pride. You know, people.
Yes.
Yes.
I see.
In the thing it says pride and industry, and I think St. Philip epitomizes pride and the industry, because to produce the type of shows you talk about, the type of artists, there has to be a certain amount of dedication and hard work that goes into it. So you're talking about rural Barbados with farming communities where people for many years would have been sidelined. And so therefore, anything that our people get involved in, be it sports, be it whatever, you would always have this underlying thing like these country bumpkins and blah, 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 blah. And that in itself propels people that if you have to do anything, you have to do it at such a level that it either surpasses what everyone else is doing, because if it doesn't surpass what they're doing, it can easily be seen as being nothing at all. And so that pride and industry is, for me, the basis upon which a lot of the things are done.
Give me a 30-second kind of overview. How do you're thinking of writing a song? What is that mental process for you? How does that evolve?
I think the first thing for me is always, how do I see the audience in my head? Do I see them reacting to certain words? Do I see them, nodding their heads or say, wow, I'll get that one. And then I begin to actually put it together. So I have to see the performance of the song first, and then I begin to write words and in the process of making the melodies, I often say to people, I have a way of speaking it first. Because if I speak it to you,
you got an example you can
yeah. So the song, for instance, These Fields and Hills. When I wrote that song, the first thing I said is, we declare love of country, we declare nationhood. We declare love of country, we declare nationhood. How does that feel in terms of opening a song for a person? And then I say, we declare love of country, we declare nationhood. And think about it and think about it. And that's how I begin the melodies.
There's a criticism sometimes that some of the songs we write tend to be overly parochial, overly local, and that if we want to take the art form, global and so on, we need to use more universal themes, or we need to, we need to expand the appeal. How do you, is that a fair comment?
No.
To some extent?
No, I dismiss it. I dismiss it. Everything is about distribution, and let's look at America. Great example of distribution. They distribute movies, they distribute music, they distribute products, and what they've been able to do is to sell everyone the American dream or the concept of America as the great. They write parochial things. Their movies are not made with you in mind. Their songs are not written with us in mind. They're written for themselves. But because they're being able to distribute it to the rest of the world, people get it. And I'll take a classic example. Let's go to Jamaica. We look at Bob Marley. Has transcended all human beings on this planet, right? Even people who don't speak English. But Trenchtown and what's happening in Trenchtown at that particular time could have been Bridgetown, could have been Brooklyn, could have been anywhere. So it's how you package that message and what distribution channels do you get it out to people that people gravitate towards the music.
So you've toured the world, you've done all these wonderful things, John, and then you decided to provide service of a different level. You went into politics as well. And you were a minister of culture, and now you're a senator. Do you miss the entertainment industry?
Seriously, seriously, because there's no, and I say it without any apologies, there is no adrenaline rush like being on stage and have, 10,000 or even 100 people just really appreciate everything that you do, and to see them also enjoying themselves, because then I began to realize that what you do impacts on people in a complete different way. You don't know whom in that audience is having a hard time, who, you know, may have lost someone, what's going on with their lives.
So in a sense, even in terms of your public life, the other public life, your purpose has been to touch people.
Just to touch people. You know what I mean, a lot of people will not understand it, because a lot of people seem to think that it's really about, you know, being a politician and all the trappings that and prestige that comes with that and all that stuff. But for me, it's never been. I think my life has so much been changed by those types of events, that for me, service is really at wherever it is that you can touch people the most, without all of the negativity and all the other things that come with some of the other places where you can find yourself.
John King, and in his own words here today on the Red Couch, thank you very much for being my guest today on the Red Couch.
Thank you, Vic.
As always.
Totally enjoyed it. Yeah.
Same here.